Alright, so last video I was very sick and I wasn't exactly in the best frame of mind to be making a video, so because of that video sucked, and to make up for it, I'm gonna go all out for this one. Check out this cool editing effect. That's the kind of stuff you can expect from this video moving forward. High octane, balls to the wall action while we talk about this new South Park episode. That's right, I'm in my element, nothing's gonna stop me. Oh. Well, that might just stop me. So remember in that last video how I mentioned that my video covering the episode where they made fun of Israel got taken down? Well, I was in the process of disputing that claim, waiting for it to be reinstated, when all of a sudden I got a second copyright claim on the video, once again from Paramount, but this time was different, because this wasn't just a claim, this was a copyright strike, meaning that not only was that video immediately taken off of YouTube, but I received a strike on my YouTube channel for it. This is kind of a big deal, because if you get 3 strikes on your channel is gone, terminated. So the fact that I received a strike with no prior warnings was slightly unsettling to say the least. Maybe this was Paramount's attempt at getting me in the Halloween spirit, you know, give me a little scare. But what was especially odd about this is that fellow YouTuber and friend of the channel Slush had a nearly identical experience with his video on the same episode a few days before me. It was also copyright claimed, which he appealed, and while waiting on the appeal, his video was removed and received a strike from a separate copyright claim entirely. So both of our videos on this same episode of South Park received copyright claims and strikes separately within a few days of each other. Even more odd was that the strike we both received seemed to be from a different source than the original claim. You see, the first claim we got, along with pretty much any of the claims I've gotten in the past, the claimant was listed as Paramount Global. But when we got the strike, it was only listed as Paramount. A slight inconsistency, but it's nothing super weird. But what was interesting was that we both were given the option to contact the claimant, and the email for the claimant ended in videosites.com. So I took a look into this company, and basically what they do is they use AI to detect potential piracy for big companies like Paramount and Warner Brothers. Unfortunately, AI is not able to detect fair use and instead just detects that we're using clips from the episode and thinks we're trying to re-upload the episode. So it's not really a surprise that it falsely flagged our videos. But what is weird is that Slush and I both only received strikes for our videos on that episode in particular. We've both made videos since then and before that have pretty much the same amount of clips in them, and yet there's no issues with those. Why didn't the AI claim those videos too? I mean, what could be in these 2 videos that makes them more worthy of being taken down than the other ones? So when I was looking into this company, I just happened to stumble across where they operate out of, and I mean, come on. I mean, that is just objectively hilarious. Net and Yah, Israel? I mean, you literally couldn't write this stuff. Now, do I think this was actually done maliciously to try to censor our videos? No. I genuinely think that this was probably a weird coincidence. I mean, I'm sure this company takes down hundreds, if not thousands of videos a day that are completely unrelated to that topic. And before a bunch of dumbasses in the comments start posting juice box emojis and trying to blame an entire group of people for something, just remember, even if there was malicious intent behind this, which I seriously doubt, there is a very big difference between an entire race of people and the actions of very powerful people with an agenda, and if you cannot tell the difference, you're a dumbass. Anyways, I just thought this was too funny not to mention, and more importantly wanted to explain why you might see me take some extra precautions from now on to avoid the AI copyright detection stuff, which will include less footage from the show in general and potentially some weird edits to any of the footage I do end up using. So hopefully the strike gets cleared up soon. If you don't know, the company has 10 days to show proof that they are taking legal action against us or the strike is removed. So either the video will be back up in about a week, or you'll see me shilling my brand new Blooms coin to help pay for my legal team. And speaking of cryptocurrency, how about we actually talk about the new episode of South Park that came out? Like I said, I'm going to be testing out some new methods to try to avoid copyright, so let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments. So really short intro since I just spent like 4 minutes talking about something completely unrelated. This episode was a Halloween special. It released Friday night on Halloween instead of their usual Wednesday, which I think might be the first time they've ever not released on Wednesday, but I don't know. The episode was pretty decent. I would say it was around the middle of the pack of this season in terms of quality. Well, technically we're in season 28 now for some reason, but you know what I mean. One of the major plot points was Stan having this meta self-reflection on the state of the show, which I thought was pretty entertaining. Of course, there was a heavy focus on the White House and this administration, though they're continuing with this theme of focusing on making fun of those around the president rather than the president himself, and all around it was an entertaining episode that had a lot of stuff I liked about it, but it didn't feel super cohesive, and in terms of actually moving the plot forward they've been setting up this whole season, it felt pretty weak. Entertaining, but not one of the best of the season. I definitely have mixed feelings on this one, so enough of this, let's get into it. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Adam and Eve. If you don't know, Adam and Eve specialize in selling adult toys and other sexual wellness products. So if you're an adult and you have any interest in wanting to spice up your own life or you and your partner's life, I highly recommend you go to adamandeve.com and check out what they got. They've got something for pretty much every gender and sexual orientation you could possibly imagine. They have 24/7 customer service, a 90-day no-hassle return policy, but most importantly, their shipping is always discreet to make sure that whatever you like to do in the privacy of your own home stays between you and whoever you choose to share it with. They've also been in business for over 50 years, so it's pretty safe to say that they know what they're doing when it comes to this stuff. So if you click the link in the description or go to adamandeve.com and use the code BLOOMS at checkout, you get 50% off of one item and free shipping in the US and Canada with free rush processing. So if you're interested in spicing it up a little bit, I highly recommend you check out adamandeve.com and make sure to use code BLOOMS at checkout. And thank you to Adam and Eve for sponsoring this video. Oh yeah, I didn't do my slam poetry verse for the last video because I was sick, and you guys loved it the first time, so let me make up for that now. $250 million on the White House while most of the country can't afford rent. It's okay, just buy this cryptocurrency and you'll get rich. Man, I would have been better off doing Fent. South Park sucks now, I proclaim, brushing tears from my eyes. You're right, say Matt and Trey. They think the show sucks, they admit it in Kyle's monologue. They can't believe it's come to this. They're feeling trapped and shocked. Hassan's dog. The episode opens with Stan and Randy talking in the car, where we find out that ever since they moved out of Tegrity Farms 4 episodes ago, the Marsh family has been homeless. This was a pretty funny way to open the episode since they just drop it on us out of nowhere. Like, nothing in the last few episodes has indicated this, and I think we all just expected them to move back into their old house. But no, Randy explains that he can't get his geology job back due to the government shutdown, and they can't afford to buy a house either, so instead they're moving in with Grandpa Marsh, who lives in a nursing home.
Can't make me stay here. This is completely inhumane.
That's what I said. Didn't work.
At the White House, the president is busy tearing down the East Wing for his new ballroom, a reference to the fact that our president is currently spending $250 million to do exactly that during this government shutdown, which honestly kind of feels like one big analogy for the state of this country as a whole. But he's interrupted by Dan Scavino and Pam Bondi, who tell him that they think someone is trying to stop his baby from being born. Pam Bondi reminds Trump of how great he is with a mysterious brown stain on her nose, showing once again that subtlety has never been South Park's strong suit. Now, a couple episodes ago, we learned that JD Vance is working with Peter Thiel to try to get rid of this baby so that he's next in line for the presidency. So he gives Peter Thiel a call to let him know that they're onto them, and even in his sedated state, Cartman can't help himself.
It should last another 6-7 hours.
Now, from the last episode, Peter Thiel was meant to be taking Cartman to DC to exorcise this 6-7 demon thing out of him, but this scene is the only reference to that plot we get in this episode, so it seems like they're putting that on pause for the time being. Kenny and Kyle visit Stan at the retirement home, where we get a very interesting conversation between the boys.
The truth is, I think a lot of people are just afraid to admit that South Park sucks now. Yeah, everyone knows it. South Park sucks now. And it's because of all this political shit.
Now, obviously, this conversation is a reflection from Matt and Trey on the current state of the show and how people seem to be feeling about it in general. The idea that South Park sucks now is a very common sentiment I've seen shared in my comment sections and all over social media. The truth is that a lot of people aren't enjoying the way this season is focused so heavily on politics, to the point where I don't blame people for saying it feels like a completely different show. And obviously, Matt and Trey are aware of these criticisms. In fact, it even seems like they know why people feel this way, with Stan specifically mentioning the lack of storylines focused on the boys.
Remember when we used to do stuff? Just us guys? Ever since all this political crap took over, it's like, what? Like what happened to us?
I mean, this is pretty much word for word one of the main criticisms I've made in almost all of my videos about this season. And of course, I'm not alone on this. A lot of fans have been feeling this exact same way. And even though I don't think this season sucks in the way a lot of fans do, I can still recognize that they've kind of fallen into the same trap they did back in season 20, and it just doesn't feel as much like South Park. It's interesting to see Matt and Trey reflect on this in real time and not just dismiss this criticism as a whole, instead acknowledging why it is that people are starting to feel this way. One thing that has always been true of Matt and Trey is that they are very self-aware. They stay tapped into how people are feeling about the things they make, and they know why people feel the way they do. But another thing that's always been true about Matt and Trey is that they're gonna make whatever they want to make regardless of how people feel about it. I mean, that's kind of the whole philosophy of the show. If they think it's funny, it's a part of the show, even if it means pissing off their entire fan base in the process. And in many cases, they've relished in pissing off their entire fan base, because to them, that's even funnier than any of the jokes they could make in the show. So the boys decide to start their own online community to find like-minded like-minded individuals who think South Park sucks now, and overnight the community gains over 700,000 members. So now, with a massive community behind them, of course, they immediately move into the natural next step when you've developed a large following online.
Introducing the South Park Sucks Now cryptocurrency coin.
Unsurprisingly, Kyle isn't a big fan of making a meme coin since they made the community to try to start a movement to make South Park better, and Stan just seems more interested in profiting from it. So they hop on a call with their financial advisor, who happens to be someone we haven't seen in a long time. It's Kyle's cousin, Kyle. He played a large role in the Fractured But Whole video game in 2017, but in the show itself, he hasn't made an appearance since The Losing Edge, which came out 20 years ago. Now, if you aren't familiar with his character, his entire purpose is to be the representation of just about every Jewish stereotype in the book, so of course he's their financial advisor.
This isn't about a coin, it's about a movement. Yeah, that's some savvy jujitsu right there.
Personally, I love cousin Kyle and how he is so incredibly annoying to everyone around him, so it was nice to see him make an appearance after such a long time. Now, the boys making a meme coin is obviously in reference to how crypto is so unregulated that 99% of the market is made up of scammers and incredibly rich people, but specifically the current administration also has some shady ties to crypto. For example, the Trump family making over $800 million on crypto in 2025 alone, Donald Trump literally launching and endorsing his own meme coin as president of the United States, which was totally not a pump and dump, and of course the fact that Trump randomly decided to pardon the Binance CEO who was arrested on money laundering charges. Binance, of course, having ties to World Liberty Financial, a company co-founded by Trump's sons, which sends 75% of token sales revenue to a company linked to their family. Now, some people may call this blatant corruption, but personally, I see it as savvy investing.
Yeah, that's some savvy jujitsu right there.
So while all this is going on, the president is discussing how he thinks that the White House might be haunted as he keeps seeing this ominous figure stalking the halls.
It's here right now.
Pretty sure that's your wife, sir.
He can't seem to escape this creature, and eventually he decides to hire some paranormal investigators to get to the bottom of it. The White House is looking extra spooky, and Stephen Miller plays the role of the ghoulish butler from every haunted house movie ever. The investigators decide to take a look at the contents of the mysterious brown substance that keeps appearing on Pam Bondi's nose when they discover something they didn't expect.
It seems to be 54% filet-o-fish sandwich,
I ate a filet-o-fish sandwich last night.
28% Taco Bell,
I ate Taco Bell this morning.
and it's 14% its own cum.
I ate.
The investigators are immediately arrested and charged for falsifying reports and creating fake news. Stan is discussing their plans for the crypto rug pull with cousin Kyle, who is currently on his way to DC to get approval for it from Donald Trump Jr. Kyle has had enough of all of this and he walks out on the plan. Cousin Kyle makes it to the extra spooky White House where he meets with Don Jr. This is interrupted by a mandatory seance. Everyone is at the seance, including Don Jr., Kristi Noem, and Brendan Carr, who were all characters in previous episodes of the season. Pam ends up getting possessed by the spirit, and Trump eagerly talks to it, trying to get some answers.
I want to hear what it has to say.
Epstein!
No, you're right. Let's stop this.
The seance quickly devolves into chaos, and it's truly a horror show. I actually think this scene might be my favorite from the episode, as all of these characters they've had throughout the season work incredibly well as monsters from a horror movie. Kristi Noem and her melting face, Brendan Carr shambling around like a zombie, and Don Jr. just looking like that. And of course, Melania just standing completely still in the corner with the giant hat covering her face. It's genuinely a pretty creepy character design, and when you put them all together like this, it really is perfect for a house of horrors. It felt very natural and made sense considering most of these characters were established weeks or months ago. It worked super well, and I definitely appreciated it. Cousin Kyle gets freaked out and admits that the entire crypto market is essentially a money laundering scam for rich people, which immediately leads to him being arrested and charged for fraud.
Filed by Pam Bondi, who said, "We will continue to indict anyone who says bad stuff about our amazing president."
We get one more scene where Stan is talking to Kyle about how South Park sucks and things will never go back to normal. Kyle responds with a line that seems like Matt and Trey talking directly to the audience, perhaps to give them a bit of hope.
Things will get back, Stan. I know it's hard to see right now, but things will go back to normal. And in the meantime, we just have to make the most of where we are.
The episode ends with Stan trying to enjoy his time at the retirement home and Melania ominously standing in the window of the White House, while If I Didn't Care by the Ink Spots plays in the background. A pretty haunting end to the episode, so now let's talk about that ending a little bit, as well as theorize on where the show goes from here. That ending conversation between Kyle and Stan definitely felt to me like Matt and Trey speaking to the audience, essentially telling us that the show is going to go back to how it was, but at this point they're too deep into the storyline to just move on, so they're going to see it through to the end and try to make the best of it. So let's talk about what exactly that means. And once again, even though it's technically 2 seasons, I'm just going to talk about it like it's one because it's just one continuous storyline. So this was the 7th episode of the season, and assuming this season ends in 10 episodes, which was the pattern before the Paramount deal, it seems like these next 3 episodes will be sort of the grand finale to this story, and most likely they'll essentially act as one 3-part episode. I say this because in the past where they've had these semi-serialized seasons like season 18 and 19, the last 2 or 3 episodes of both of those were essentially one big episode used to wrap up all the loose ends from the rest of the season. And for this season, there are a lot of loose ends. Cartman and Peter Thiel, Satan's pregnancy, JD Vance's plan to stop it all, Towley overhearing his plan, Jesus becoming a MAGA Christian, Randy leaving Tegrity, hell, even Mr. Mackey's plot from episode 2 seems unfinished. They really have set up a ton of different plot elements in this season that are just waiting to be concluded. And I think if they plan on making a satisfying ending for each of them, they're gonna need all 3 episodes to do it. And if they are able to pull it off and really make all of them have satisfying conclusions, it could be something really special. Now, that's a big if, because I can't imagine it'll be easy to make a cohesive story out of all these separate elements, but if they do manage to do it, it could make for one of the best season finales we've seen from the show. In my opinion, season 19's finale was the best they've done with this kind of setup, and in that case, they had significantly less story elements than they do now, so it's gonna take a lot to pull this off successfully. But either way, based on Stan and Kyle's conversation, it seems like they plan on completely moving past this once it's over, which I think will be a win for everyone. But let's finish talking about this episode for now and wrap this video up. Like I said at the beginning, I thought this was a good episode. It had a few jokes that I really appreciated. The main downside was that it felt like it kind of stalled the story out a little bit. Based on my assumption about the finale spanning the next 3 episodes, I think that was intentional because they already had pretty much everything set up they wanted to before this episode, and they didn't want to change anything major in this one, so they just tried to focus on a self-contained story, which felt kind of out of place amongst the rest of the season. But I definitely still enjoyed it. I liked the self-reflection on the part of Matt and Trey, and that they were willing to basically tell us what their plan was moving forward. I thought it worked super well as a Halloween episode. Like I said, I couldn't believe how perfectly all the characters fit into this haunted house parody, and for me, that was probably the highlight of the episode. And of course, I was excited that they brought back Cousin Kyle, only for him to be arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. So all in all, it was a pretty decent episode. Again, I don't think it was the best from the season by any means, but it's around the middle of the pack. But yep, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will